A Path to a Sustainable Stevens Point is a report made by the Stevens Point Eco-Municipality Task Force in 2008. The recommendations included in the document are designed to spur community action and enact sustainable governmental policies. Sustainable development meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. The report focuses on sustainability in 8 categories: civic involvement and education, development and land use, food, green building and energy, parks and tourism, transportation, waste and recycling, and water and wastewater. For this implementation assignment, I have focused on the parks and tourism section, specifically the goal of providing sufficient parks, recreational facilities, and open space in the benefit, enjoyment, health, and well-being of Stevens Point residents. Many communities focus on parks and recreation because of their numerous benefits to their residents. The Stevens Point website, for example, uses a list from the National Recreation Park Association titled The Top 10 Parks and Recreation Values to illustrate the importance of parks.
We use that list a lot, trying to sell the parks to the community, sell them to the aldermen, sell them to special interest groups on why we need things, and a lot of times they sell those back to us. They'll show up and say, you know, your thing says the top 10, here's a reason why don't we have one? Well, because we need help developing it. Well, we're here to help you develop it. We're here to do fundraising. So the list of the top 10 things work both ways.
Another community which takes great pride in their park system is the city of Kaukauna, Wisconsin. This can be seen in their open space and recreation plan, something that many communities have. Kaukauna has listed several similar goals to that of the goals within the Path to a Sustainable Stevens Point report. They include to establish a community-wide system of parks, open spaces, and park facilities that will provide all residents of Kaukauna with adequate recreational facilities, to conserve, protect, and improve the natural resources of Kaukauna, promote the city of Kaukana's historical significance in future recreation planning, to encourage cooperation with adjacent municipalities, the Kaukauna School District, local groups and organizations, and developers to maximize the cost-effectiveness of providing open space and recreational facilities, to encourage continued involvement of Kaukauna residents when planning for park and recreational development. The first goal is most closely related with objectives such as providing park and recreational facilities that adequately serve all residential areas of the community, ensure that newly developed residential areas are provided with adequate and accessible park and recreational facilities, provide a wide variety of recreational activities that will serve the residents of Kaukauna on a year-round basis, maintain and/or improve existing park and recreational facilities to meet community standards, needs, and expectations, and provide safe and adequate accessibility to all community parks and recreation areas. Kaukana's open space and recreation plan includes this table, comparing open space within the region. Although the standard acres per 1,000 people is 6 to 10, Kaukauna and many other nearby communities greatly exceed in park acreage. Although Kaukauna has triple the standard for the amount of parks, they continue to seek opportunities to provide their residents with new and beneficial parks. Anderson Park, for example, was recently acquired and designed. Although it may not be developed for several years to come, it is comforting to know that Kaukauna strives to provide adequate recreational facilities to meet current needs and to accommodate future growth, while at the same time preserving and enhancing their unique natural resources and features. The Municipality Task Force's report lists several activities to help Stevens Point become more sustainable. I have created an implementation strategy for the activity of identifying opportunities to create new parks or open spaces for broad public uses. The location choice of implementation is strictly based on census population data and current park locations. My first task was to contact the Stevens Point Department of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, who provided me with maps of the current developed and undeveloped parks within Stevens Point. Using the ArcMap program and OASIS server data, I updated the Stevens Point boundary, seen here in red. Using the provided maps of Stevens Point parks, I selected the parcels that correlated with their locations and created a new GIS layer of parks. I then created a 700-foot buffer around all of the parks. Walkable Communities states that the best neighborhoods have welcoming public space within 700 feet of all homes. I then imported U.S. Census block group information onto the map. By overlaying the map layer and the block group layer, I determined how many square feet of park there is within each block group. As you can see, several of the block groups do not have any park space within them. In order to choose a block group to focus on, I looked for one that did not have a known park, either public or private, such as Schmeekley Reserve, and one that did not have a 700-foot buffer crossing into it. My focus for implementing this activity takes place on block groups 3 and 4 of Census Tract 960300, near the northwest side of Stevens Point. The perfect area to implement this activity would take place on an open, city-owned parcel, so I inquired with the city assessor's office to retrieve a list of the city-owned properties. Many of these are merely road right-of-ways, but it was nonetheless useful. I then selected the parcels that are owned by the city and created a new layer, similar to the park procedure. To find an open parcel, I looked to the aerial photograph and the urban land use, also recovered from the OASIS server available at UWSP. Here you can see that these block groups are dominated by residential uses. I focused on the vacant purple parcels and the city-owned green parcels in order to determine a new location for a park. Some are both. Here are 2 preliminary locations for a new park. It is important to note that these locations were only determined possibilities based on their ownership, land use, and open space statuses. Further analysis and discussion with Tom Schrader, Director of Parks and Recreational Services of Stevens Point, determined that these sites are perhaps not the most feasible locations for a park.
It's actually a street right-of-way is what that is. So I don't know if they would ever let that become a park. Would it be better to not go the typical park, but like a mini park, which could be just a gathering space, maybe some benches and a couple trees and an area that is small, that people can just gather at versus trying to build a recreational area.
Right.
So, and that's kind of what they're hoping the community gardens turn into. Actually, they're not community, these are called neighborhood gardens. Because everybody within this area gardens, and you can't drive there. You walk there, and it's like a social thing. So that might be something to try in this area if we found smaller pieces. You know, more of that neighborhood garden with some park benches and a picnic table or something where people can socialize.
What parks do you use in Stevens Point?
I usually use Buchholz and Piffner and Iverson.
Okay, and how do you get to those parks?
I usually ride my bike down to Piffner and Buchholz, or I drive to Iverson.
Okay. What would you think about a park at the intersection of 5th Street and Pulaski?
I think it'd be a good spot for a park since there aren't any in walking distance or nearby, and there's a lot of residents and kids in that area.
What type of recreation activities would you like offered at this new park?
I'd like playgrounds and swing sets for the little kids, and grassy open areas with benches and picnic tables for other people to enjoy, and maybe places to grill out and a pavilion or something.